What's up, true crime family? You think Washington, D.C. is just boring politicians, policy papers, and marble monuments? Yeah, think again. Beneath all those crisp suits and the pristine public face, there is a seriously dark underbelly of corporate greed, multi-billion-dollar cover-ups, and cold-blooded murder. I'm your host, MrNike, and you are officially tuned in to the MrNike Files. Today, we're unpacking an explainer on a pharmaceutical conspiracy so massive and a cover-up so violently sloppy, it's going to make you question who really runs the Capitol. But before we expose the bloody truth, do me a favor, smash that like button, share this explainer, and subscribe to the MrNike Files so you never miss a mystery. Okay, let's dive into this madness. So our story starts with an impossible crime scene. Meet Chloe. She was a brilliant young data analyst. One morning, DC police find her dead on the cold pavement right below her luxury high-rise apartment. At first, they rush to rule it a tragic jump from her balcony. Just a sad open and shut case, right? Wrong. The glaring contradiction was literally staring investigators right in the face. Think about it. A fatal fall from that height, yet there was absolutely zero blood trail on the exterior pavement. None. But when detectives breached her apartment, they found a bloody handprint smeared right inside her living room. Coincidence? Not a chance. This wasn't some tragedy, guys. This was a staged execution. It's really a tale of two very different Washingtons. On one side, you've got the public face, the gleaming monuments, the lawmakers, the tourists taking selfies. But flip that coin and you've got the dark underbelly. We're talking about a billion-dollar illegal drug ring run by Big Pharma tycoons who honestly believed their bank accounts made them invisible. Chloe hadn't just stumbled onto some rounding error in a spreadsheet. No, she had peeked behind the curtain of an elite cartel operating right in the shadow of Capitol Hill. Now, this staged suicide was falling apart at the seams. Remember that missing blood outside and the bloody handprint inside? Well, it gets worse. When Chloe's body hit the morgue, the medical examiner deliberately omitted a rather important detail from the official autopsy report. What was it? A fatal gunshot wound. You heard me right. Missing a bullet hole is a pretty massive oops for a seasoned professional. It became blatantly obvious that someone with incredibly deep pockets was buying off officials to make Chloe's murder just disappear on paper. The cartel was aggressively tying up loose ends, and man, they were working fast. Day one, Chloe is murdered and the scene is staged. That exact same day, the corrupt autopsy is officially filed, basically rubber stamping the lie. But then we hit day two. That very same corrupt medical examiner, the guy who literally sold his soul to cover up a bullet hole, suddenly drops dead near the National Mall. His cause of death? Poisoned street coffee. He bought a cup of joe from a vendor and was dead before it even went cold. The cartel wasn't just silencing whistleblowers anymore. They were violently silencing their own accomplices. So why go to such extreme bloody lengths? The answer is simple. Leverage. Chloe was targeted because she possessed the absolute ultimate leverage. She didn't just have suspicions. She had hard, undeniable proof. She had actually managed to capture a hidden recording that completely exposed the top bosses of this illegal pharmaceutical drug network. She had their faces, their voices, and their crimes all saved on a digital file. And to a multi-billion-dollar cartel, that evidence wasn't just a threat. It was a death sentence. Enter Arthur. Arthur was Chloe the grandfather, a tough-as-nails Army veteran who was absolutely not about to let his granddaughter's murderers get away with it. While going through her belongings, Arthur found that hidden recording. He instantly knew what he was holding, and he didn't trust the local DC cops. I mean, would you after that botched autopsy? His plan was incredibly straightforward and brave. He was going to march straight down Pennsylvania Avenue and hand-deliver this explosive evidence directly to FBI headquarters. But before he left, Arthur watched that recording. The audio clearly revealed three distinct, powerful voices orchestrating this massive drug ring. Two of them were known pharmaceutical bosses, guys who regularly rub shoulders with politicians. But there was a third voice, a mysterious shadow partner who never actually showed his face on camera, but clearly pulled all the strings. Whoever this phantom was, he was the real kingpin of Washington. Unfortunately, the cartel knew Arthur had the evidence. They dispatched their top cleaner, a hitman named Ray. Now, Ray wasn't your typical lurk-in-the-shadows kind of assassin. He was incredibly cocky. He was so arrogant, so sure of his absolute immunity in this city, that he committed his hits wearing a bright blue uniform. Seriously, he wanted people to see him, knowing full well that his billionaire bosses would clean up whatever neon-colored mess he left behind. And Ray's method for stopping Arthur was just brutal. As the veteran grandfather made his way toward the FBI building, clutching the evidence that could bring down an empire, Ray struck. A massive, phantom truck blindsided him. That's literally how witnesses described it. Out of nowhere, this massive truck slammed into Arthur on the busy D.C. streets, killing him instantly. Ray just drove off into the city, thinking he had finally buried the very last piece of the puzzle. But Arthur's death wasn't in vain. The FBI was already quietly piecing together the players. Boss number 1 was Victor. Boss number 2 was Harrison. Both legitimate pharmaceutical tycoons on the surface, but ruthless drug lords underneath. And of course, their muscle, the hitman, Ray. The feds had eyes on these three, but they were missing the head of the snake. They desperately needed that third voice from Chloe's tape. Which brings us to the ultimate true crime question. How exactly do you catch a shadow partner who pulls all the strings in Washington? You can't just arrest Victor and Harrison. They'll just lawyer up, the shadow partner cuts them loose, and the empire survives. No, the feds needed to smoke him out. They needed a psychological masterclass to force the smartest, most powerful man in the room to make a very, very stupid mistake. So, the FBI engineered a 4-step masterpiece of a trap. Step 1, they quietly brought Victor in and then faked his release, leaking rumors that he had cut a deal. Step 2, trigger absolute paranoia within the cartel. Step 3, wait for the weak link to snap. And sure enough, the hitman, Ray, panicked. Thinking Victor was a rat, Ray started aggressively demanding hush money so he could skip town. Step 4, track Ray's communications and set the stage for an underground meeting to pay him off. The cartel obviously couldn't risk a daylight meeting with their empire literally crumbling. They agreed to meet Ray in a dimly lit underground parking garage right near Capitol Hill. Picture the scene for a second. Dripping water, flickering fluorescent lights, the heavy silence of a concrete tomb. Federal agents are already stacked up in the shadows, holding their breath, just waiting to see exactly who would show up to pay off the hitman. The tension in that garage is suffocating. Ray is standing there, nervous, hand hovering right over his weapon. Then, tires screech in the distance. The sound echoes off the concrete walls. A sleek, black SUV slowly descends the ramp and pulls up to the panicked hitman. The doors unlock, the FBI snipers tighten their grips, the mysterious third partner, the mastermind behind the staged suicide, the poisoned coffee, and the phantom truck is finally stepping into the light. And the shadow partner was none other than Oliver. He wasn't just some street thug, guys. He was a highly respected, heavily connected Washington power broker, a man who literally dined with senators and shaped national policy. He was the absolute last person anyone would ever suspect of running a bloody drug cartel. Oliver had used his pristine D.C. prestige as a shield while ordering the brutal murder of a young data analyst. As Oliver stepped out to silence Ray once and for all, the trap snapped shut. The untouchable empire crumbled in seconds. Before Oliver could even blink, before Ray could even think about drawing his weapon, the FBI swarmed that garage from every single exit. Red and blue lights totally flooded the underground structure. The feds didn't just arrest a drug ring that night. They ripped out a rotten piece of the Washington establishment. As they slapped the cuffs on Oliver, an agent reportedly muttered a phrase that perfectly sums up this entire twisted saga. He said, "You can buy a lot of influence in D.C., but you can't buy your way out of a sloppy crime scene." And that is the cold, hard truth. They had all the money in the world, but their arrogance made them reckless, and that recklessness brought a billion-dollar empire crashing down into the dust. Well, this has been one wild ride through the MrNike files, and I'm so glad you took it with me. If you enjoyed this explainer, you know exactly what to do. Smash that like button, share this with your fellow true crime junkies, and subscribe to the channel to help us grow. But before I let you go, I really want to hear from you. What dark mystery or crazy conspiracy should I cover in the next explainer? Drop your suggestions in the comments below. Stay safe out there, trust no one, and I'll catch you next time.